Just
but
like that.
another project took up too much time and it didn't pan out, so I ended up putting this video on the back burner. Then I immediately took it back off the back burner because I still really wanted to do it, so here we are.
Maybe I'm
If you've
just
somehow
a weirdo.
never played FNAF for yourself, you
like,
should totally do it.
things
It does such a fantastic
back
job
there.
of building tension and
Definitely.
making you feel paranoid. It's great. I promise you, the series became super popular for a reason. Oh, and this probably doesn't need to be said, but I'll say it anyways. Disclaimer. I'm not claiming that any existing FNAF theory is wrong, nor am I claiming that the eventual theory I come up with in this video is the only correct one. I want to believe by this point that everyone in the community agrees the FNAF series can be interpreted in any number of ways. Personally, I think its greatest strength is that it doesn't have a definitive quote-unquote solution to its story. Instead, it's like Legos. You're given all of these pieces that connect in different possible ways, and it's encouraged for people to come up with their own interpretations for what's going on. And this video is just me throwing my hat into the ring. As such, for the first half of this video, I want to go over everything I can in this game without
And he's gonna
revealing my thoughts and
explode.
analysis first. I want to make a comprehensive list of evidence that anyone can use to help form their own opinions before I explain my reasoning and potentially influence your perception. That way, even if people disagree with the theory I end up putting forward, they might still have a reason to revisit this video. And also so that people who are unfamiliar with FNAF won't be confused watching this video. Only after that will I try to form a theory that 1. Uses or explains every clue, 2. Shows a clear timeline of events, and 3. Feels like it satisfies any and all questions someone may have after playing this game. And since there's a lot to
Don't die.
let's not waste any more time. What is Five Nights at Freddy's about?
Easy.
From the moment we hit start, we see a help wanted ad in the newspaper for a night guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Goodness.
Hours 12 to 6 a.m. to monitor cameras and ensure the safety of animatronic characters. 2 details here. First is that the ad openly
He's gonna
acknowledges the
explode
risk
now.
of injury and dismemberment, of which the store is not responsible for. Kind of a bold thing to say up front, but I guess...
Why would you? I'm so confused.
The other thing is the text outside of the ad. These blurry
Maybe I'm
paragraphs
stupid.
all say the same thing, which is actually a message from the creator, Scott Cawthon. It reads, blah, 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 blah. This ad has nothing to do with anything relevant to the game. Blah, 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 blah. Chances are you'll
I can't really
blah, blah. Yakety
avoid it.
blah, blah. This probably
You got the Omni. You're
since
fucking.
most likely won't survive the week. I'd recommend being a cashier, sack boy, or work in a warehouse.
But the
They're all very
omnibus
respectable jobs, and you probably wouldn't be killed by them. Well, you might, but it would be unlikely. Blah. Blah.
Die.
Okay, so right off the bat, we have a cheeky developer message. We can probably dismiss this, especially since Scott says directly that this has nothing to do with anything relevant, but this video wouldn't be comprehensive if I didn't point it out.
Faster.
But after the ad, we're immediately thrown into the office, where we'll be stationed for the rest of the game. Here, the player can't move. They can only check the lights and shut the doors on both sides of the office, or check the security cameras where we can see the entire pizzeria. You can also do this. Through the cameras, you can see animatronics on stage, party tables, posters, children's drawings, and a rules for safety sign posted on the walls, bathrooms, hallways, and a broom closet. Worth noting is that you can see trash and spider webs in multiple spots throughout the pizzeria, including your own office. But the
Plus,
most
the
immediately
reason why
interesting spots in
fucking
the store
wins
I
is the
think are the kitchen, backstage, and Pirate Cove. The kitchen camera is disabled, and you can't get any visuals. You can still
No,
rely
it's
on
so
sound
good.
since you have audio, but actually seeing what's going on in there is a total no-go. Pirate Cove contains nothing but a curtain and a sign that reads, "Sorry, out of order." We'll find what's back here very soon. And lastly, the backstage employees only area consists of a bunch of spare costume heads and a full, seemingly deactivated naked endoskeleton sitting on the table. This endoskeleton never moves from this spot, but occasionally, when viewing the camera, you'll see this. Spooky. As the player is looking around, they'll hear the phone ringing, and soon after, a man speaking to them, who the community affectionately refers to as Phone Guy. This is the first of many phone calls heard throughout the series. You get one phone call for each night, and they usually explain the rules of the game and tips for surviving various animatronics. Basically, when the animatronics get close to your office, shut the doors to get them out until your shift ends at 6 a.m. But you only have a limited amount of power for each night, so you should only shut the door when you're absolutely sure you're in danger. If you run out of power, that's a near guaranteed loss. could technically still win the night, but the chances are slim. But Phone Guy doesn't just tell us the rules. He also gives us a hefty amount of background information about both the characters and the restaurant's history. These phone calls are valuable sources of information, and we should take note of everything that's said. The Night 1 phone call is the longest call in the game, being almost exactly twice as long as the Night 2 phone call, but each phone call in the game is shorter than the last. Since I don't want to just play 3.5 straight minutes of game audio, I'll try to trim this one down to just the key points. Also, I know I said I'd go over just the evidence first and leave my analysis out of it, but since you can easily find these phone calls on YouTube or the transcripts on the FNAF wiki, and since some of them are pretty long, I'd really prefer to only go over them once for this video, so I'll be including my notes for these as I play them, though I'll try to stick to only the obvious observations.
I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night. I actually worked in that office before you. I'm finishing up my last week now, as a matter of fact,
So right off the bat, these messages
Pause, why? When the
I know that's kind
moment
of a
I
weird thing to
switch.
zero in on so soon, but we're gonna want to keep it in mind going further. Also, Phone Guy had your job before you were hired.
let's see. First, there's an introductory
Yep.
reading from the company that I'm supposed to read.
The moment you
It's
hit
kind
the
of a legal
geodude.
thing, you know. Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life. Fazbear Entertainment is not
So what does,
responsible for damage to
wait,
property or person. Upon discovering
this,
the damage or
payback
death
do,
occurred,
payback,
a situation
payback.
report will be filed within 90 days or as soon as property and premises have been thoroughly
X.
cleaned and
Yeah, we
cleaned
did this.
and the carpet has been replaced. Blah, blah,
And
blah.
then we
90 days
Let's
feels
go
like
classify
way
one.
too long a time to wait before reporting
I-
someone's missing.
get out of my
combined
face,
with the
boss.
thing about replacing the carpets first, and the newspaper earlier mentioning risk of dismemberment, and it's clear that Fazbear
You're faster,
is
I'm fried.
totally negligent to a truly comical degree. A joke that I think only gets funnier as the series goes on.
The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night, but do I blame them? No. If I were forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years and I never got a bath, I'd probably be a bit irritable at night too.
Kind of a funny joke. Looks like our phone guy has a sense of humor, but what I'm most interested in is the 20 years thing. If the characters haven't been cleaned in 20 years, then obviously we know the store has been open for at least 20 years. We should write that down.
So just be aware, the characters do tend to wander a bit.
I knew the keys.
They're left in some kind of free roaming mode at night. They used to be allowed to walk around during the day too. And then there was the bite of 87. Yeah.
Oh no, man. What?
It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe, you know?
Okay, now this seems like a pretty big bombshell, and the total lack of elaboration generates a lot of intrigue. I want to say it's one of the reasons there was so much buzz surrounding this game when it first came out. What the hell is the bite of 87? Well, whatever it is, we can assume it happened in 1987, and that an animatronic bit somebody, leading to the loss of the victim's frontal lobe, which is a pretty sizable piece of the human brain. We can also assume that it happened during the day, because after this, the animatronics were no longer allowed to roam freely. But the main
You have
takeaway for the player is
anticipation.
that these characters are capable of some serious damage.
The only real risk to you as a night watchman here, if any, is the fact that these characters, if they happen to see you after hours, probably won't recognize you as a person. They'll most likely see you as a metal endoskeleton without its costume on. Now, since that's against the rules here at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, they'll probably try to forcefully stuff you inside a Freddy Fazbear suit. Now, that wouldn't be so bad if the suits themselves weren't filled with cross beams, wires, and animatronic devices, especially around the facial area. The only parts of you that would likely see the light of day again would be your eyeballs and teeth when they pop out the front of the mask.
Okay, sure. I mean, this could be the truth, but I feel like it has to be one of those little white lies from management, because we can see a naked endoskeleton backstage, and the animatronics pay it no mind. Also, the thing about the eyes and teeth feels so specific that I have to wonder if it's happened to an employee before, especially since the game over screen shows us this exact thing happening to us, as Phone Guy describes it. Has Phone Guy seen this happen before?
But hey, first station of the breeze. I'll chat with you tomorrow. Check those cameras and remember to close the doors only if absolutely necessary. Gotta conserve power. Alright, good night.
Once the call ends, some animatronics start to move. Bonnie the Bunny and Chica the Chicken are the primary threats on night 1, with Bonnie approaching from the left and Chica approaching from the right. Freddy himself doesn't move unless he runs out of power, but he will occasionally stare directly at the camera. On her way to the office, Chica will pass through the kitchen. You obviously won't be able to see her, but you will be able to hear her. What the heck is she doing in there? Bonnie, on the other hand, doesn't really do anything special, although sometimes when he ventures backstage, he'll get real up close and personal. You want like a breath mint or something? If either of these two get into the office, then they'll kill you the next time you lower your camera. If you actively refuse to lower your camera while they're in the office, well, eventually they'll just lower it for you. Strangely though, while this is going on, despite them being robots, you'll be able to hear them breathing. Night 2 begins with a shorter phone call.
Hello? Hello? Well, if you're hearing this and you made it to day 2, congrats. I won't talk quite as long this time since Freddy and his friends tend to become more active as the week progresses.
I'm like 90% sure that this isn't lore. I think this is purely just a gameplay tip, which is fine. This is a video game.
Interestingly enough, Freddy himself doesn't come off stage very often. Freddy becomes a lot more active in the dark, though, so hey, I guess that's one more reason not to run out of power, right?
Likewise, this is just the game warning the player that Freddy will get you if the power goes out, assuming the player hasn't seen it already. After emphasizing the importance of the door lights and accidentally acknowledging the danger you're in, Phone Guy leaves us with one more very important tip.
Also, check on the curtain in Pirate Cove from time to time. The character in there seems unique in that he becomes more active if the cameras remain off for long periods of time. I guess he doesn't like being watched. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure you have everything under control. Talk to you soon.
Night 2 is the first good look we get at Foxy the Pirate. He could technically appear on Night 1, but that's only if the player isn't checking the cameras, which a new player probably is. Foxy works differently from every other animatronic. If you're not checking the cameras enough, Foxy will slowly leave his curtain. If he leaves completely, then that means he's on his way. I said earlier that Bonnie and Chica will kill you when you're looking at or lowering the cameras. Some players might think to avoid this by just never opening the cameras. Foxy is the counter to that strategy. If you're not checking the cameras, Foxy will run for your office, and there's no way of knowing exactly when. The player can block him with the door, but trying to guess when he runs without the cameras will waste a lot of power. Not only that, but every time you block him with the office door, he'll drain a bit of your power, and the amount he drains increases every time he runs. So you'll want to minimize how many times he runs by checking the cameras often. The last thing to note about our out-of-order friend here is that sometimes he'll sing. This doesn't indicate anything, he kinda just does it at random. But when you hear it, if you switch to the Pirate Cove camera, it gets louder, so we know Foxy's the one singing. Plus, he's a pirate, so if anyone's singing a sea shanty, it's probably him. With Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy to worry about, the player will have their attention divided. It's imperative to stay focused and to keep your nerves under control. But not helping that is the many Easter eggs that all seem designed to make you paranoid. Let's talk about Easter eggs. For starters, at any given moment, one of 4 things can happen. There's Foxy singing, which I just mentioned, but it's also possible for circus music to play, possible to hear random metal pounding, and most distracting, it's possible to see this. Alongside these 4 random events, there's also 12 different Easter eggs that might appear every time you open the camera. I already mentioned the Freddy, Bonnie, and backstage stare downs, but there's also all of the following. When Foxy leaves Pirate Cove, there's a chance that the Out of Order sign will say, "It's me," instead. Similarly, the posters in the East Hall have a chance to be replaced by "It's me" graffitied on the wall. These posters also have a chance to be replaced by a child's drawing of a screaming and crying face. The poster of Freddy in the West Hall corner can sometimes change to show Freddy ripping his own head apart. And finally, the most informative Easter eggs. The signs in the East Hall corner can change to be one of 4 things. One of 4 newspapers. They read as follows. Kids vanish at local pizzeria. Bodies not found. 2 local children were reportedly lured into a back room during the late hours of operation at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza on the night of June 26th. While video surveillance identified the man responsible and led to his capture the following morning, the children themselves were never found and are presumed dead. Police think that the suspect dressed as a mascot to earn the children's trust. 5 children now reported missing. Suspect convicted. 5 children are now linked to the incident at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where a man dressed as a cartoon mascot and lured them into a back room. While the suspect has been charged, the bodies themselves were never found. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has been fighting an uphill battle ever since to convince families to return to the pizzeria. Quote, "It's a tragedy." Local pizzeria threatened with shutdown over sanitation. Local pizzeria, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, has been threatened again with shutdown by the health department over reports of foul odor coming from the much-loved animal mascots. Police were contacted when parents reportedly noticed what appeared to be blood and mucus around the eyes and mouths of the mascots. One parent likened them to reanimated carcasses. Local pizzeria set to close by year's end. After a long struggle to stay in business after the tragedy that struck there many years ago, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has announced that it will close by year's end. Despite a year-long search for the buyer, companies seem unwilling to be associated with the company. These characters will live on. In the hearts of kids, these characters will live on. CEO. Now, we'll analyze these newspapers more in depth later on, but this reveals a lot. Now we know the store is set to close by the end of the year, and the dramatic decline in patronage due to these incidents explain why there's cobwebs and trash everywhere, and maybe even why management hasn't fixed Foxy yet. The store is already done for. I also feel like it's not a stretch to say that there's obviously something supernatural going on here. The random posters and hallucinations, the animatronics acting in strange ways, the building and these characters are clearly haunted. And if there are ghosts involved, well, the incidents described in these newspapers could be our reason why. This is definitely something to keep in mind. Things really ramp up on night 3. The phone call is also very short, with really only 2 things worth noting. Phone guy accidentally acknowledges how dangerous the situation is again.
I'm not implying that they died. That's not what I meant.
And then he has a weird idea.
If you happen to get caught and want to avoid getting stuffed into a Freddy suit, try playing dead. Go limp. Then there's a chance that maybe they'll think that you're an empty costume instead. Then again, if they think you're an empty costume, they might try to stuff a metal skeleton in you. I wonder how that would work. Yeah, never mind. Scratch that. It's best just not to get caught.
This is an incredibly strange thing to say, especially since it actually has 0 gameplay applications. For a long time, people assumed that this was a clue that when the power goes out, Freddy would take longer to kill you if you held perfectly still.
Don't move, 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 don't move. I didn't move. That beginning didn't count.
But that's just a myth. How long Freddy takes to kill you during power outage is entirely decided by RNG. Maybe it refers to not opening the camera when Bonnie or Chica make it into the office. It's a little unclear, which is why it's so weird that this is the only advice Phone Guy gives you during this phone call. But we have bigger things to worry about. Starting on night 3, Freddy will finally leave the show stage. He's significantly more aggressive than Bonnie and Chica. While Bonnie and Chica can kind of roam back and forth and potentially never reach your office, Freddy has a fixed movement path. He'll move in a straight forward line from the show stage to the dining area, to the restrooms, to the kitchen where his song can be heard, then to the East Hall corner, and if he's not stopped there, your office. And while Bonnie and Chica return all the way to the dining hall when they're blocked by the door, Freddy will only move 1 space back to the east hallway. This means that once he's reached that point during the night, there's no getting rid of him. There are a few ways to keep track of him though. Every time he moves, you can hear him laugh, even if you're not looking at the cameras. Also, he can't move if the cameras are up. If he tries, he'll just wait and then move as soon as you put the camera down. It's a small blessing, but it can be used to stall him. However, once he's right outside your office, he starts working differently. When he's there, he'll only freeze if you're looking at him on that camera specifically. If you're looking anywhere else, he can try and enter your office.
Man.
But he can only enter your
Fuck you.
office when the cameras are up. This means, if you're not checking the cameras, you're safe. If you're watching Freddy in the corner, you're safe. But if you're watching anywhere else on cams, you're in danger unless the right door is down. Night 3 can be a real hassle. It's the first night in the game where all animatronics are active. All 5 animatronics. It's time to talk about our final opponent. One that's technically active since the very first night, but only appears on very rare occasion. I mentioned before that there were 12 Easter eggs that could appear every time you check the cameras. Well, I've actually only told you about 11 of them. I mentioned that the poster in the East Hall corner has a rare chance to become Freddy ripping his head off. Well, it also has a much rarer chance to be something else. How rare? 1 in 32,768. Hilariously, it was actually supposed to be 1 in 100,000, but for multiple reasons, the actual probability is about 3 times more common, which I won't complain. But if you do get that 1 in 32,768 chance, the poster changes, and when you see it, this happens. This character is never named in-game. Internal files call him Yellow Bear, but the community took to naming him Golden Freddy. Golden Freddy is the most evidently supernatural out of all the animatronics. If you see his poster, he'll spawn in the office even if both doors are down. His mere presence forces the flashing "it's me" hallucinations. To make him go away, all you have to do is pull the camera back up. While he's unlikely to end your run, you basically need to let him kill you, his presence is a real shakeup, and it might throw somebody off their game. Golden Freddy's existence is incredibly strange. His jump scare sound is unique, and he doesn't send you to the game over screen. Instead, he crashes your game. It's hard to tell if he has any significance to the plot, but he's definitely something to keep in mind. Before moving on, I'll also mention the last 2 random Easter eggs I haven't mentioned yet. After the game over screen, there's a 1 in 10,000 chance for the game to give you the Golden Freddy jump scare instead of sending you to the title. And every time you go to the title screen, there's a 1 in 1,000 chance for this to happen. There's not much to say about Night 4. Everyone is even more active than the previous night, but besides that, there's nothing really to say about them. What is worth talking about is the phone call. Phone Guy's shortest call in the game. I'm gonna let it play in full.
Oh, hey, wow, day 4. I knew you could do it. Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you when I did. Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm gonna try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. Oh no.
Looks like Phone Guy got himself stuffed into a suit. He was right about the animatronics getting more active as time goes on, since you can actually make out the audio cues of all 5 animatronics during this call. Foxy banging on the door, Freddy's music box, Bonnie and Chica's groaning, and finally, Golden Freddy's lower-pitched scream. Also starting on this night, once Bonnie and Chica make it right outside your office, they start to twitch violently and give off the same garbled noise you hear during hallucinations. Night 5 is even worse. The animatronics are at their hardest, and somehow, you still get a phone call. Despite this absolute nightmare, if you manage to clear the night, you'll have finished your 5 nights at Freddy's, and you'll get the first ending. Wow, $120 for our troubles. This is where we learn that our character's name is Mike Schmidt. We also see that the check is dated November 12th, or maybe December 11th, but the year isn't specified. It's also a little weird that the game takes place towards the end of the year, when the developer message earlier called it a summer job, but that's just all the more reason to dismiss that as evidence. It was almost definitely something Scott just threw together and included as a joke, possibly early in development. Editor's note. Apparently, some people use the term summer job to refer to any temporary or part-time job, and not necessarily a job that's over the summer. It seems like the FNAF community assumes that that's how Scott is using the phrase here, especially since this whole summer job during the end of year discrepancy happens in FNAF 2 as well. So if you take summer job as it's used here to mean part-time job, then there's actually no contradiction here. I just thought I'd include that. The end. Game completed. Except, once you beat Night 5, you unlock an even harder Night 6. This is just a bonus challenge, there's not even a phone call, but if you beat it, you get the second ending and one final unlockable. For your outstanding work effort, you earn 50 cents. And Employee of the Month. But your final reward is the incredibly cool Custom Night. Here, you can set the animatronics AI levels as you see fit. A super neat addition for players who want to poke around with the game engine, or maybe are just trying to find certain Easter eggs. Although something does happen if you put in the code 1987. This was apparently added in an update by Scott to dissuade rumors that beating 1987 mode would unlock some kind of secret. And I totally believe it, even though I can't find the original source of that claim. Beating Custom Night on any difficulty gives you this screen. Notice of termination. Reason, tampering with the animatronics, general unprofessionalism, odor. Hilarious. You get fired for tampering with the animatronics, even if you play the night with the default settings of 1331. What the hell, man? I didn't even do anything. The last thing you can do in this game is attempt the hardest optional challenge, 20-20-20-20 mode. Doing this doesn't change the ending, but it does get you your third and final star. So, that was a lot. But now we have all the information we can possibly gather from this game. So now it's time for step 2. How can we make all of these pieces fit together? Can we form a satisfying narrative that answers the questions, what is really going on here? Who was responsible for the bite of 87? What was the missing children incident? What's the deal with Golden Freddy? And what is the real story of Five Nights at Freddy's? So right off the bat, the missing children incident is totally causing all of this. 5 kids go missing, their bodies are never found, blood and mucus appears on the suits, and the animatronics start acting hostile. The victims of the missing children incident, or MCI for short, were absolutely stuffed inside the animatronics. And if we count Golden Freddy, the number of suits matches up perfectly to the number of victims. That's why the animatronics are haunted, that's why Freddy and Golden Freddy laugh like children, that's why weird stuff happens around the building, including the appearance of a poster depicting a crying child. It's probably why the animatronics even want to kill you by stuffing you into a suit. It's because that's the same way they died, stuffed inside a suit. Let's start building ourselves a timeline. And let's start with something obvious. Everything in this game is learned from the perspective of Mike Schmidt and his work week, so we know that that's the last thing in the timeline. By this point, there's already a newspaper claiming that the store will shut down by the end of the year. Mike is employed during the end of the year, so we can assume the store closes only 1 or 2 months after he's fired. We also know that Phone Guy's week comes before Mike's because we listen to Phone Guy's pre-recorded messages. And in those messages, Phone Guy mentions the bite of 87, so we know that comes before. We can also assume that the MCI also comes before Phone Guy's work week, since he's killed by the animatronics, so they're clearly already haunted by that point. The only real question we have here is, did the bite come first, or did the MCI come first? And the answer is that, honestly, it could go either way, and it doesn't really matter. While these are both important moments in the timeline, they don't really affect each other that much. You could infer that the bite happened because the animatronics were already haunted, meaning the MCI came first, but the animatronics are already so dangerous, you could just as easily say that the bite happened first because one of the customers got too close, or a character glitched, or hell, maybe one just fell on top of somebody and crushed them. I just want to reiterate that you could come up with any number of specific theories to make either order work. And I don't even think Scott intended a specific order at this point in the series. Honestly, I just think Scott included the Bite of 87 to explain on night 1 that the animatronics were dangerous, and he included the missing children's incident just for some backstory, and that's it. The reason I'm concerned at all with putting these things in a timeline is because, well, logistically everything has to happen in a timeline, and quote-unquote solving that timeline is just how I personally have the most fun engaging with this series. All that being said, since we're told very little about the Bite, if we want more information, then analyzing those newspapers again is our best bet. First, let's get the order down. I was curious if these papers could come in any order other than what I read before, since they aren't numbered and can show up in any order, but it seems pretty definitive. Kids vanish at local pizzeria, and 5 children now reported missing paint the picture of an ongoing investigation. The number of victims increases, the suspect goes from apprehended to convicted, and the police go from just thinking that the suspect dressed as a mascot to more confidently stating that a man dressed as a mascot to lure the victims away. Our third paper, threatened with shutdown over sanitation, would have to come after, once the kids get stuffed and the animatronics show signs of contact with bodily remains. I wondered if this could have happened before the investigation, like if the children were stuffed into the suits first, then blood is noticed, and then after that the children are reported missing and the suspect is caught. But that actually can't be the case. This is because we know the investigation starts immediately after the 2 kids in our first paper go missing. After the killer gets those 2, he's caught the very next morning, and later convicted for all 5. That means that by the time it's even possible for people to notice bloody suits, the killer must already be caught and the investigation must already be over. After all, this paper says the police were called, which naturally means the police weren't there to begin with, which means the investigation must have ended already. These health concerns could only be noticed after the initial investigation concludes, and then the store reopens to the public. That just leaves paper number 4. Local pizzeria said to close by year's end certainly sounds final, but can we definitively say that this paper comes last? Yes. If this paper came before the previous one about sanitation concerns, then we have a problem. You have the health department threatening the store with shutdown after the store already announced its shutdown. So since the store must still be open to be threatened with shutdown, we know the third paper comes before the fourth. And since we know the third paper has to happen after 1 and 2, then we can definitively say the order of these papers is the one I laid out previously. First, 2 kids go missing, then 5 kids missing, then threats over sanitation, and then finally, store said to close by year's end. Perfect. But can this also help us narrow down where in the timeline the bite happens? Well, a little. At the very least, I think we can say that the bite can't happen after paper number 4. This is because everything from paper number 4, announcing that the store is closing at the end of the year, up until the store actually closing, would have to happen within the same year. But if the bite happens within the same year as Phone Guy's work week, then that means you have people calling this the Bite of 87, while it's still 1987, which somehow feels like the least believable thing so far. So despite paper number 4 saying tragedy singular, which is a detail I let myself get hung up on for way too long, it has to come after both the bite and the MTI. It's not the biggest clue, but it's something. But with the papers in order, we now have a rough outline of events. Reportedly, during the late hours of June 26th, 2 children are lured away by our killer. The next morning, that's hours later, half a day at most, the killer is caught. That means that within this time frame, someone must have reported the kids missing that night, after which an investigation would have started, and the authorities are able to find surveillance footage fast enough to make an arrest by the next morning. This is what we can consider to be the missing children incident, and we can consolidate all of this into a single point on our timeline. That brings us to paper number 3, and the prospect of kids being hidden inside the characters. This begs the question, why were the bodies never found? If the police were literally called about blood and mucus on the suits, then why didn't they look in the suits? Surely they would have discovered the bodies then, so why didn't they? Simple. By that point, the bodies must already be gone. We need to talk about a key player in all of this, that being Fazbear Entertainment itself. If we know one thing about this corporate entity, it's that it's a professional responsibility dodger. From the very first screen, you have the open acknowledgement of possible dismemberment, of which Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for. You see the company, within 1 day, go from calling you Employee of the Month to firing you on grounds of general unprofessionalism, and you have Phone Guy constantly downplaying the danger you're in despite working the same job and knowing that you'll be stuffed into a suit and that specifically your eyes and teeth will bulge out the front of the mask. And most importantly, You have the company saying they'll report somebody missing only after waiting 3 months and only after they can clean up any and all evidence first. They're perfectly okay with interfering with a crime scene to save their own ass. Here's the big problem. A killer leaves 5 corpses in the back room. Over the course of the night, authorities are at the store and they find proof on the security cameras, but they don't find the obvious crime scene? Unless the killer put the kids in the suits, then immediately took them back out of the suits, moved them somewhere else, and then came back and cleaned the crime scene and then left all before the cops arrived, somebody was in the store after the killer left and before the police arrived. Perhaps an employee clocking in for the night shift? A position we know is occasionally filled by higher-ups like Phone Guy? I think, after the kids were killed, Fazbear Entertainment found the bodies first and immediately got rid of them to dodge the blame. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I think for years I've been operating under a misconception. That the kids were stuffed inside the animatronics that perform up on stage. The ones that walk around the store and hunt you down at night. I thought that the kids were inside the walking robots, suit, body, and endoskeleton and all. But the fact is that just doesn't make any sense. Even just being stuffed inside a suit without the endoskeleton is lethal enough for your eyes and teeth to bulge out. Child or not, I don't think it's possible to fit a person and an endoskeleton inside a suit together. I imagine some people might say, well, if they weren't stuffed with the endoskeletons, then why are the characters even haunted? Or why are the animatronics still haunted if the bodies aren't in them? And to that I say, we don't know how ghosts work. We could be going off of unfinished business rules, or maybe the spirits need to be properly put to rest. Because let's face it, if Fazbear Entertainment got rid of the bodies, they definitely didn't give them a proper burial, they probably just threw those things in a ditch and called it a day. But personally, I don't think it's possible that the bodies are still in the suits by the time Mike is hired. If there were ever a moment for the bodies to be discovered, blood being noticed on the suits would have been it, but that's not what's reported in the paper. Now, this is about as far as our analysis can take us. We've pretty much squeezed out as much information as possible from the clues we're given. We can try and speculate further, but that'll only help us zoom into the timeline, when really we want to zoom out. The timeline ends with Phone Guy's work week, then Mike's, then the store closes. Meanwhile, the MCI goes towards the beginning, with blood noticed on the suits and the store announcing its closure, both reported by the newspapers, happening sometime after. I tried my hardest to pin these down in relation to Phone Guy's week, but really they could fit in any order. Phone Guy's week could come before, after, between, or even concurrently with the papers, without issue. This just leaves our final and most annoying puzzle piece. Where in this timeline does the bite fit? And are you ready to be unsatisfied? Because the truth is, as long as it comes before paper number 4 and Phone Guy's work week, the bite can fit anywhere, with plausible explanations existing in all cases. Did the bite come before the MCI? Now the animatronics are stuck on stage. Maybe that's why the killer hid them in the suits. They thought the blood wouldn't be noticed from afar. Did the bite come after the blood is noticed on the suits? First, people are close enough to the animatronics that they notice the blood and mucus. Then, eventually someone gets so close that they get chomped. Did the bite come immediately after the MCI and before blood was noticed? That could be because the freshly haunted animatronics bit somebody the very first chance they were able, before anybody even had the chance to cry sanitation concerns. Only after, when they're restricted to the stage, do people really notice the blood. I genuinely don't think that there's any concrete way to approach solving this timeline. Speaking objectively, this is about as solved as it can get. If you want to make any more progress from here, you have to rely more heavily on assumptions. For me to continue this theory, I have to follow my gut. And personally, my gut says that things make the most sense if the bite comes first in the timeline. And my reasoning for why boils down to just one question. How does Golden Freddy fit into all of this? And I am going to play Ace Attorney music for this part. I'll just come out and say it. I think Golden Freddy is our culprit for the bite. For starters, the bite is literally only acknowledged twice in the entire game. The first time during the Night 1 phone call, and the second when you input the year into the custom night screen, which prompts the Golden Freddy jump scare. I know Scott added this to dissuade rumors, but who's to say he wasn't killing 2 birds with 1 stone? What if Scott was dissuading rumors and giving us a hint that Golden Freddy was connected to the bite? Second, you don't find any acknowledgement of Golden Freddy. Not from Phone Guy, not on posters, not on children's drawings, nowhere. The closest thing is this drawing of Freddy, but if you brighten it, it's clear to me that this bear is brown, not yellow. Now, this could imply that Golden Freddy doesn't actually exist, and he's just a hallucination, which is a valid theory. And sure, the one that appears in the office is probably just a ghost and not a real suit. But the real suit must have existed at some point, because somebody was stuffed inside it. Why would the ghost look like the suit otherwise? To me, Golden Freddy's absence always felt like a cover-up. Like Fazbear Entertainment is trying to pretend he doesn't exist, even though he does. Think about it. If a Golden Freddy animatronic bit out somebody's brain, what would management do? Would they own up to it in any way whatsoever? Or would they scrap the animatronic, remove any and all references to its existence, make the rest of the character stationary during the day, and continue business like usual, pretending the whole thing never happened? What sounds more likely to you, knowing what we know about the company? And my final piece of evidence. Notice how Golden Freddy is positioned. Slumped over, completely limp. And what does Phone Guy say when he talks about being caught?
Try playing dead. You know, go limp. Then there's a chance that maybe they'll think that you're in an empty costume instead.
Go limp, and you'll look like an empty suit. Golden Freddy is empty. That's what this line from Phone Guy means. It wasn't any kind of gameplay hint, it was a clue that Golden Freddy has no endoskeleton. The lone, seemingly random naked endoskeleton backstage is his. So, what? Why does it matter that Golden Freddy is empty? Because our killer disguised himself in a mascot costume. And he can't just use any costume. You can't just take the suits from the back and put them on, because we know that there are crossbeams, wires, and animatronic devices in the suits that make them unfit for a person to wear safely. This, I think, is our smoking gun. Because while it seems reasonable, the idea of a mascot suit someone can wear doesn't come up anywhere else in the game. If you get stuffed into a suit, you die. The missing kids were stuffed into the suits, which left blood around the eyes. In order to wear a mascot costume safely, it would need to be empty, with all of those pieces taken out. Something that I think would only happen if management was decommissioning an animatronic. Management deactivated the endoskeleton to make sure that the biter couldn't bite again, and then they pulled out the suit parts, leaving the character itself completely hollow. Hollow and wearable. My final theory and timeline for the first, and only the first, Five Nights at Freddy's game goes as follows. At some point, probably in the early 80s, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opens up. It's a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, and it's incredibly popular, likely because of the advanced animatronics that walk around and interact directly with the customers. However, it was this very feature that would backfire, when in 1987, a customer got too close. One of the animatronics, a yellow bear, got so close to a customer that it ended up causing serious damage to the person's head. The customer survived, but had lost their frontal lobe. People would later refer to this incident as the Bite of '87. Ensuing PR was bad, and the animatronics were undeniably dangerous, so Fazbear Entertainment began to make changes. They no longer allowed the animatronics to roam freely during the day, and they also began to phase out the specific character responsible for the bite. Posters and children's drawings were taken off the walls, and the suit itself was decommissioned. Sometime in the early to mid-90s, June 26th, a man takes the suit, now wearable by a person, and puts it on. During the late hours of operation, the man stalks around the store, targeting children, likely those who came to the pizzeria alone. One by one, he lures them to the back room of the store, and from there, nobody knows. All we know is that 5 children were stuffed inside each of the mascots. One for Freddy, one for Bonnie, one for Chica, one for Foxy, and even one for the scrapped Golden Freddy, the very same suit used to commit the crime. I suspect that the culprit also tampered with the camera footage of the back room. After all, if they have knowledge of and access to a decommissioned suit, then perhaps they're an employee who has access to the cameras too. They tried to cover their tracks, and while it wasn't entirely successful, they managed to leave the nature of their crime a mystery. The killer leaves the store, and soon after, a night guard arrives for their shift, discovering the crime scene. But this person doesn't go to the police, because as a higher-up at Fazbear Entertainment, they knew that this would destroy the store. After the PR nightmare caused by the Bite of '87, another incident would be the end of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Nobody can know about this, so they get rid of everything. They clean the crime scene and get rid of the bodies. And if the killer didn't tamper with the camera footage, then management definitely did. Around this time is when the first calls go out. 2 families report that their children never came home. The police act fast to track them down, see if they can find their last known whereabouts. Eventually, they link the kids to a local pizzeria and arrive early next morning to investigate. What they find is far from decisive, but with what they do have, they can just barely, on the cameras, make out a man wearing a suit and luring lone children away. They don't have footage of the room they were lured to, but I imagine if they investigated, they would have found traces of blood. Whatever happened there, it wasn't good. The children are presumed dead. Police mobilize. What they found is enough to make an arrest that very same morning. Around this time is when I guess the first report goes out, while at the same time, 3 more families call in, saying they woke up and their children still hadn't come home. As the police continue to investigate, they eventually link all 5 disappearances to their suspect. They make their case, and despite the fact that the bodies were never found, the suspect is convicted. Despite management's best efforts, the store still takes a dramatic hit in patronage. People now associate the store with the terrible tragedy that happened there. Police are even called after blood and mucus is noticed around the eyes and mouths of the animatronic characters. The police check the suits, but they can't find anything conclusive. Admittedly, management hadn't given the suits a bath in 20 years. Still, the store is hounded by the health department and threatened with shutdown. After a long struggle lasting many years, Fazbear Entertainment admits defeat. Health concerns and a tarnished reputation finally lead to the store announcing that by the end of the year, the store will officially be closed for good. Trash piles up around the store, cobwebs form in the halls, but why bother to clean? One of the animatronics, Foxy, falls into disrepair, but there's no point in spending the money to fix him. An out-of-order sign is placed in front of his stage, where it would sit until the store's closure. It was all over. But not for everyone. For the victims, it wasn't over. Far from it. The day they were stuffed into those suits, they had become something else, and they weren't going to rest until they found the one responsible, the man in the employee uniform that lured them away. Though the animatronics could no longer walk around during the day, management still let them roam around at night, and employees who had the night shift began to notice the animatronics acting strange, moving more and more, becoming hostile and violent. Maybe an employee is even killed, stuffed into a suit, his eyes and teeth bulging out the front. But of course, no body is found. The carpet is cleaned and replaced before a missing person report is filed. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for injury in this matter. Nobody wants to take the night shift anymore. A senior employee fills the position himself while the store looks for anyone willing to apply. This temporary night guard records messages for their would-be replacement, trying to warn them about the dangers of the job, possibly trying to help avoid any future incidents. But all while not directly admitting fault, of course. Nothing that happens at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is management's fault. This man, too, is killed on the job. A replacement is finally found, a man named Mike Schmidt. He does his job, and perhaps because of those pre-recorded messages, which management clearly forgot to erase, is able to survive until the end of the week. He even comes back for some overtime, at least as much as the closing store can afford to pay him. A true valued employee. Employee of the month, even. Nobody's lasted in Mike's position as long as he has. Mike does his job and does it well. Although, maybe too well. Maybe management doesn't like having somebody poking around in their business, learning too much. Not that there's anything to learn, mind you. Maybe we shouldn't let people like Mike poke around. We should let him go. Hurry him out the door. He's unprofessional, odorous, too unfit for a work environment. Did he even actually tamper with the animatronics? What does that matter? Nobody needs to know anything about Fazbear Entertainment. Nobody needs to know anything about the people who run it, what they know and what they are or aren't responsible for. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is a perfectly respectable establishment. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike. These characters will live on. In the hearts of kids, these characters will live on. The store closes the very next month. It is not remembered too fondly. This is what I honestly believe could have been the plot of Five Nights at Freddy's. Like I said, you can interpret the story in many ways. I imagine tons of people will disagree with this theory, and that's fine, because it's always fun coming up with your own. I mean, there are certainly parts of this theory that even I have a hard time believing, like management cleaning up the crime scene, but that's just where I think the evidence takes it. Personally, I think police would definitely discover the kids during the investigation by the next morning, but since I don't think the killer put them in the suits only to take them back out again and hide them somewhere else, they have to already be gone by then. But at the end of the day, I'm like 90% sure Scott didn't intend for people to scrutinize these details so closely. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't trying to allude to a specific order of events. He just wanted to imply a story for his scary sit-and-survive video game. And it's just fun to think about what that story could have been for 3 months, from August to November 2014. Because then the plot changed. I mean, you can hardly expand on a story without changing it in some way. And man, while I was captivated by FNAF 1, FNAF 2 is what got me in a chokehold. Scott Cawthon understood that the mystery of FNAF 1 was got people's attention, and he struck while the iron was hot, releasing a sequel in just 3 months. A sequel filled with so much more mystery, more danger, more characters, and a much more compelling narrative. In my opinion. So much about what FNAF 2 added to the overall plot helped shape the series into what it is today, but I won't get into that. That's a video for another time, and only if you guys like this one. I'll gladly talk about FNAF for as long as the internet wants me to, but only if you guys want me to, and also just not immediately. This video took so much out of me. We got trailers for both Secret of the Mimic and the second movie while I was working on this, so I'm gonna leave it here. This script was 19 and a half pages, jeez. I have my work cut out for me editing this, so before I stop recording and resign myself to that torment, I just want to plug my Twitter, where I never post, and my second channel, where I never upload. Although while making this, I did put up a highlight of me trying to get footage of all the Easter eggs in one go, and I'm still kind of proud of how it turned out, so please go check that one out. Even if you're just itching for background noise, I'd still greatly appreciate it. I'm so happy to finally have finished this video, because it's been in my head for so long. The FNAF series was a series that evolved super fast, because we kept getting games super quickly, and it was fun to get swept away in all of like the new reveals that each game brought. But I look back and I reminisce on theorizing after specific games came out. Not just the combined journey of like adjusting your theory each time a new game comes out, but I specifically remember the periods between each game and just what the community looked like and what the theories looked like at the time. And I really wanted to make this video because I want to reminisce on those times, reminisce on what it was like when just the first game was what we had to work with. Finishing this video is really cathartic, and I hope it's as satisfying for you guys as it is for me. So, I just want to say, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and genuinely, thank you for watching.
Don't pee on the floor, use the Commodore. Yeah, la 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 la.
And
Go for DLC 2. Yeah, I'm gonna go for DLC 2, yes. It's like all of it combined together. Now it's the Elden Fish. During high. Okay, but it's a duo boss, so... So there's a boss after the Elden Fish as well. You forgot an item. You mean like no, I don't have to pick this up. According to the rules, right? It's not necessary for me to pick it up. I can. This was incredibly bad, Nico. Well done. Well done, not well done. Probably Radagon. Dude, imagine it's Radagon afterwards. That would be so hilarious.
okay. It's just
How is it not staggering the season? Now it is. Okay, second phase. Oh god. Okay. Okay. Can't dodge this, right? You'll always get hit by that, like, thing. What the fuck? Okay, that was dirty motherfucking damage. What the fuck? Holy shit, dude. Easy peasy. GG's. Explosion, boom. And ad break. Okay, thank you for the follows. Ad break. I'm playing 3 minutes per hour, guys. I get paid for these ads. I get paid roughly $1,200 this month, which is a lot of money for me. That's why I do it. If you're not subscribed, you might see some advertisement right now. Here's the 3-minute ad break, and then we'll continue the run. Love you, say it back right into chat. Do you know how to dodge the staff slam? What is the staff slam? When it jumps away from you or what? They paid you double down? Double now? No, it's like usually last month it was like 1,000 spell. Thank you. Thank you so much for the tier 3, dude. For 37 months. Thank you. Ah, abductor. Yeah, of course. For all the abductor virgins in chat. Wait, I did click the ads, right? Yeah, I did. Okay. Oh, sure, she did. I can't click double. You have to wait. Twitch doesn't allow to play back-to-back advertisement. You have to wait. Yeah, it's Frieren exactly. Frieren is the best anime there is. Oh god. Oh god. I have to rewatch Frieren now again, because the second season is releasing soon, right? We're gonna get Frieren Season 2 next month. Which is going to be fucking goated. Hey Naeem, hi. How can you get abducted if there is not a virgin abductor in the basement? You die. You have to die. But since we are not allowed to die, we can't get abducted. But on a randomizer, I believe, or you lower your health and that's it. I don't know if you have to die or if it's just lowering your health. Hey Shremmel, hi. The deathbat smalls? The deathbat smalls? What are the deathbats smalls? Fia's panties? Oh. I have not found Fia's pants yet, no. Oh god. Senesax in here. That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fucking fun, dude. What is happening, dude? Like, seriously, what's happening? Is he up in the air? Am I up in the air? What is happening? Can I hit him? It's also so annoying that these enemies are so lanky that you can never hit them properly. Oh god. It's fucking fire. I hate fire. Come back. Ah. Let's go. Boom. Volcano matter. Okay, here we go. Volcano Dude, we're so tanky. This is super good, this talisman setup. We should really keep this if possible. This is a fantastic talisman setup. Hey, Nico. We will keep it, yeah. We'll keep it, don't worry about it. So, who was that merchant with the... That was the boiled? Where's the oh, here. Nice. Yeah, I just bought some. Deep root depth. We haven't done. And we haven't done Ainsel as well. We could do that.